This story will be about the great prophet Moses who parted the Red Sea, who gushed water from a rock for a thirsty people. Be sure to watch to the end to understand the full meaning of the story. The story of Moses, a seminal figure in biblical history, begins in Egypt amid a brutal edict from Pharaoh demanding the death of all newborn Hebrew boys. Moses' mother, seeking to save her son, hides him for 3 months, and then, no longer able to keep him concealed, sets him afloat on the river Nile in a basket. The basket is discovered by Pharaoh's daughter, who, moved by compassion, adopts the child and names him Moses, which means drawn out of the water. Moses grows up in the Egyptian palace, aware of his Hebrew heritage. As a young man, Moses witnesses an Egyptian taskmaster brutally beating a Hebrew slave. In a fit of rage, Moses kills the Egyptian and buries him in the sand. When Pharaoh learns of the incident, he seeks to kill Moses, prompting Moses to flee to the land of Midian. There he encounters the daughters of Jethro at a well, helps them water their flock, and eventually marries one of them, Zipporah. While in Midian, Moses' life takes a divine turn when he encounters God in a burning bush on Mount Horeb. The bush burns with fire but is not consumed. God calls Moses to return to Egypt to lead his people to freedom. He equips Moses with miraculous signs and declares his name, I am who I am, establishing his eternal presence and power. Returning to Egypt, Moses, with his brother Aaron, confronts Pharaoh with God's demand to let the Hebrews go. Pharaoh's heart hardens, and he refuses, prompting God to unleash 10 devastating plagues upon Egypt. The final plague, the death of the Egyptian firstborns, breaks Pharaoh's resistance, and he hastily expels the Hebrews from Egypt. However, as the Hebrews depart, Pharaoh's heart hardens again, and he pursues them to the Red Sea. In a miraculous display, God parts the waters of the Red Sea, allowing the Hebrews to pass through safely, then closes the waters over the Egyptian army, annihilating them. Following the escape from Egypt, Moses leads the people to Mount Sinai, where God establishes a covenant with the Israelites. Moses' leadership of the Israelites is a pivotal saga of trials, challenges, and divine interventions, showcasing his profound relationship with both his people and God. After the miraculous escape from Egypt and the crossing of the Red Sea, Moses finds himself leading a large, often contentious group of freed slaves through the inhospitable desert towards the Promised Land, a journey fraught with both physical and spiritual tests. As they travel, the nascent nation confronts the harsh realities of desert life, including scarcity of food and water. The people frequently grumble against Moses and Aaron, lamenting their escape from Egypt, where despite being enslaved, they had stable access to food and water. In response to their cries, God provides manna, bread from heaven, each morning and commands Moses to strike a rock with his staff at Horeb, from which water miraculously flows. These episodes highlight Moses' role as an intermediary between God and the Israelites, through whom God provides sustenance and demonstrates ongoing commitment to his people. The journey to the Promised Land is not just a physical migration, but also a spiritual formation for the Israelites. Moses frequently ascends Mount Sinai to communicate with God, receiving laws and commandments that would define the community's covenantal relationship with their deity. These laws, including the 10 Commandments, become the foundation of the Israelite identity and ethical conduct. Moses' role as a lawgiver cements his leadership, guiding the people not just through the desert, but towards a new way of life, governed by divine law. However, Moses' leadership is continuously tested by the people's wavering faith. The most dramatic example of this is the incident of the golden calf. While Moses is on Mount Sinai receiving the tablets of the covenant, the people, despairing of his return, create an idol in the form of a golden calf and begin to worship it. This act of apostasy angers God, who threatens to destroy the people, but Moses intercedes on their behalf. He descends the mountain, breaks the tablets in anger upon seeing the idolatry, and chastises the people for their unfaithfulness. His intercession with God spares the Israelites from destruction, and he returns to Sinai to receive a new set of tablets, symbolizing the renewal of the covenant and demonstrating his role as mediator and redeemer. Moses also faces military challenges, such as when the Israelites are attacked by the Amalekites. In this battle, Moses' leadership takes a symbolic form as he stands on a hill with the staff of God in his hand. As long as Moses holds up his hands, the Israelites prevail. When he tires, Aaron and Hur support his hands, ensuring their victory. This event not only underscores the importance of Moses' leadership, but also the collective effort needed to sustain it. According to the biblical text, Moses dies at the age of 120 in the land of Moab at Mount Nebo. Despite his advanced age, it is noted that his eye was not dim, nor his natural force abated, signifying that he remained vigorous and clear-sighted until the end of his life. This detail highlights the exceptional nature of Moses as a prophet and leader, sustained by divine grace throughout his long and arduous mission. God himself tells Moses that he would not enter the promised land, but would only see it from a distance. After showing him the land from atop Mount Nebo, Moses dies there in Moab, as per God's word. The Bible states that God himself buries Moses in a valley in the land of Moab near Beth Peor, but no one knows his exact burial site. This mysterious end is significant as it underscores the unique relationship between Moses and God, with Moses being the only prophet whom God personally attends to in death. Moses' legacy therefore transcends his physical presence, focusing instead on the laws he delivered, the lessons he imparted, and the nation he guided toward their covenantal destiny. His life and death encapsulate themes of faith, leadership, human frailty, and divine intimacy, making him one of the most revered figures in biblical history. Moses' life is marked by moments of great faith, monumental challenges, and profound encounters with the divine. He remains a figure of justice, law, and leadership, revered as one of the greatest prophets who ever lived. His story is a testament to the complexity of human faith and the enduring mercy of God. This scenario raises more questions than it answers. So let's delve into the biblical events surrounding Moses' death and this peculiar dispute. Moses, the man who had led the Israelites out of Egypt, who had received the 10 Commandments directly from God, and who had guided his people towards the Promised Land, was now on the verge of death. His life was filled with extraordinary encounters, divine revelations, and powerful miracles. Yet just before he entered the Promised Land, he made a very serious mistake. It almost cost him his ministry. God had specifically asked Moses to speak to the rock so that water would gush out and the children of Israel would drink. But unfortunately, due to the pressure from the Israelites, Moses, out of anger, turned to the people and said, "Must we always bring out water for you to drink?" Although this statement might have sounded innocent, it had very serious consequences. The first mistake Moses made was to use the word "we" instead of saying "God." It was God's power that was to bring out water, and not Moses. By saying "we," it meant Moses attributed some level of power to himself. Secondly, Moses struck the rock when God had actually told him to speak to it. Immediately after doing this, God told Moses that he shall no longer enter the Promised Land because of his error. Think about it. Can you imagine all that Moses had gone through just to miss it at the end? After this, he died. The book of Deuteronomy 34:5-6 narrates the event of Moses' death. It says, "So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord. And he buried him in a valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor, but no one knows his grave to this day." This passage tells us that Moses died in the land of Moab as per God's words. And then, in a mysterious and divine act, God himself buried Moses. This is an unusual occurrence in the Bible. God, the creator of the universe, personally involving himself in the burial of a man. It is not often that we hear of God carrying out a burial. This act of divine intervention signifies the special bond that Moses shared with God. Moses was not just a servant of the Lord, he was a friend. In this friendship, we see a remarkable act of love, respect, and honor. But then a question arises. Why did God choose to bury Moses in a secret place? Why was the location of his grave kept hidden from the world? The answer to this question takes us into a deeper exploration of God's wisdom and Satan's cunning plans, where we find Michael the Archangel and Satan locked in a fierce dispute, not here on earth, but in the heavenly realms. This was no ordinary argument. Satan came to claim the body of Moses. His audacious move is met with resistance by none other than Michael the Archangel. The Bible doesn't provide us with all the details of this celestial confrontation, but we know that Michael, standing firm in his divine duty, resisted Satan's claim. Michael, an archangel of great power and authority, stood his ground. However, he did not rebuke Satan in his own name or power. Instead, he said, "The Lord rebuke you." Here we see the humility and wisdom of the archangel Archangel Michael, who acknowledges that the power to rebuke Satan comes from God alone. One might wonder, why would a celestial being like Satan be so interested in the mortal remains of Moses? What could he possibly gain from possessing the body of a man who had already passed away? Firstly, there's a chance that Satan wanted to prevent Moses from being resurrected or assumed into heaven. Satan might have wrongly assumed that God planned to take Moses into heaven, just like Elijah or Enoch. In the Gospel of Matthew 17, Moses appeared with Elijah on the Mount of Transfiguration with Jesus. Satan, being the cunning adversary that he is, may have tried to stop this from happening by taking possession of Moses' body. Another major reason Satan wanted the body of Moses was because Satan most likely wanted to use Moses' body as an object of idolatry for the Israelites. Remember the golden calf incident in Exodus 32? Satan, knowing this, may have intended to tempt them to venerate Moses' body or relics. This would have been an effective way to divert them from the true worship of God. God, in his wisdom, may have hidden Moses' body to protect his people from this snare. The third reason is that Satan, who is referred to as the accuser in Revelation 12:10, could have wanted to accuse Moses of his past sins and unworthiness before God. Satan could have used Moses' past failures, such as killing an Egyptian, breaking the tablets of the law, or striking the rock instead of speaking to it, as grounds for condemnation. The devil loves to accuse and condemn, and Moses, despite his great deeds, was not without sins. Lastly, Satan might have wanted to mock God's plan and power by seizing Moses' body. Satan could have attempted to claim a trophy of his victory over God's chosen leader and mediator. The devil, in his pride and rebellion, constantly seeks to challenge God and his plans. But let's remember this: while Satan's cunning nature knows no bounds, neither does God's wisdom. God's power and wisdom are infinitely greater than Satan's schemes. Even when Satan fought hard for Moses' body, it was God who had the final say. God's purposes cannot be thwarted, and his plans cannot be foiled. Satan's cunning knows no bounds, but neither does God's wisdom. God is always one step ahead, and his wisdom and power far exceed anything Satan can muster. Even in the face of Satan's craftiness, God's plans always prevail. So remember, no matter how crafty and cunning Satan might be, God's wisdom, power, and love for us are infinitely greater. Beyond the dispute, there's a greater lesson. It's a story we've unraveled today, a complex narrative woven into the fabric of our faith, a tale of God's chosen leader, Moses, and the battle that ensued over his lifeless body. But let's step back for a moment. Let's look beyond the battle, beyond the motives of Satan, and find the greater message hidden within this story. First, it's a reminder of the importance of true worship. The Israelites time and again fell into the snare of idolatry. Whether it was the golden calf or the bronze serpent, they were easily swayed away from the worship of the one true God. The potential misuse of Moses' body as an object of veneration underscores the struggle, reminding us to keep our worship focused on God alone. Second, it's a testament that God's grace extends beyond our shortcomings and that his love is stronger than our past failures. Finally, this story serves as a stark reminder of the need to resist Satan's temptations. Satan is crafty, cunning, and will use any means to divert us from God's path. But as Michael the Archangel demonstrated, with faith and the power of God's word, we can stand against these temptations. Let's remember the story of Moses' body not as a gruesome battle, but as a testament to God's enduring protection and guidance. It's a testament that continues to resonate, reminding us of the importance of true worship, the power of God's redemption, and the need to resist Satan's temptations.